Okay, so when we're talking about an exponential function like this, what do each of these letters represent? What do they mean? In other words, if I made one of these and said, I don't know, g at x equals 3 and then 5 to the exponent, I don't know, 4 over 6. What could you interpret it? Could you tell me what that function is doing? This one right here. What is it saying to do mathematically? Oh, sorry, that shouldn't be a 4. Let's make that an x. Why did I put a 4 there? Yeah. Good, yeah. So we're taking 3 and we're multiplying it by, but we don't do it every time. In fact, we won't do it until the 6th time. Every 6th time we go through it, whatever that 6 represents. If it was minutes, then every 6 minutes we'll multiply by 5. If it was hours, then every 6 hours we'll multiply by 5. If it was every 6 steps, then does that make sense? We don't know. We'd have to have some context to know what it means. Is that 3 cats, 3 dogs, 3 meerkats, or $3 million? We don't know, but we know it's being multiplied by 5, but not every step through, but every 6th step through, we multiply by 5, right? Okay, so with that in mind, actually, why am I erasing that? Why erase that? With that in mind, what does this first number mean? In this case, the 3, Scarlett told me, she said that that's what we were multiplying, not by, but what we're starting with and multiplying, right? So this is what we'd call like the starting value, the initial value, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter. We're not going to be fancy pants here. What about the b? That's right. We multiply by this. And do the letters matter? Like I used a and b here just for convenience sake, but does it matter that's an a and a b? The fact that we have an x here just means do this over and over again, right? You can do it as many times as you want. But what does the t tell me? The x tells you how many times, really, and we can change that. But the t tells you how many times it takes to multiply, right? In other words, in this example, it's not the first time we go through we multiply by 5. We have to wait to the 6th time. If I took that away, we'd be multiplying by 5 every time. Does that make sense? If I divided it by 4, now it would take 4 cycles before we multiply by 5. We can set how long it takes to get there, right? This would be the classic example if we were like, I'm blanking on an idea here. I got confused 4 times, but every hour the number of times I get confused doubles, right? Then it would look like that. But if it took 5 hours, then we'd do that. That was the worst example in the history of mathematics, and I'm ashamed. I'm going to go home and think about that and feel sad. But anyway, don't tell me what to do. Not my boss.
Every 2 minutes, the amount of tears you cry doubles.
That's right. Okay, so in a very real sense, I guess you are all my boss, but I'm also your boss. It's weird. It's a parasocial dynamic. Anyway, in a much more real sense, I'm your boss. But in a real sense that has no bearing on actual things, you're my boss. Anyway, okay, now the question is, what if I didn't give you an equation? What if I just told you this? Can we figure out what's going on here? And this is a pretty friendly one. This one's quite friendly. Don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. I want you guys, I'm obviously going to show you how, but I want to give you 5 minutes and just have you take a look at this and just see if you can work your way through it. Does that make sense? Just take a look and figure out, can I figure out what I'm starting with? Can I figure out what it's changing by? And then how often? And if so, if I know all that, would it be possible for me to just write an equation for this? And I bet that you can. I have faith in you. So try it. While you do that, I'm going to put my attendance in, because you know what I am? What am I?
A professional teacher.
You know it. Are you? No. Nope, nope, no quick questions. I gotta do my attendance. Sit down. Sit down.
Just to let you know I'm still here.
Yep. Shh, be quiet. Thank you. I want an equation for this. Everyone get on your page. If you're not talking about that, then don't be talking.
Oh, we actually have to put it into.
Yeah, see if you can figure it out. Don't stress if you can't, but I bet you can. Critten's here. Evan's here. Samantha's here. Lily's here. Sarah's here. Is Saphira here? Saphira's not here, right? There we go. Kayla Douglas Moffat here? You bet she is. Is it Aiden Fraser here?
I think I got it.
What are you doing? And is it math? If it's not math, then just stop. Good. Then be quiet. Scarlett's here. Kartik's here. Kiki's here. Tiana's here. Alexander's here. Angela's here. Annie's here. Samuel's here. Seth's here. No Sunena. And Solange is here. All right.
Damn, we almost had a perfect class.
Okay, so let's take a look at this relationship. First of all, if you remember way back when we talked about looking in grade 10 math, you would have talked about finding the equation of a linear relationship, right? Well, you did that in grade 9. So look here, don't write this. But if we had a linear relationship and I had x's here and y's and it went 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then went, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 20. And we said, okay, can you figure out that relationship? We'd say, well, every time we go up by 1 on the x's, we're going up by 3 on the y's, right?
Yeah.
And so then we would say, okay, we have constant first differences. That means it's linear. The rate of change is 3. So that'd be y equals 3x. And then we'd have to look at the initial value, and the initial value is 8. So we'd move it there. Right? Does that make sense? And then you probably got to parabolas, right? And you did the same thing for parabolas. But we always looked for what we were adding. You should tell right away, are we going to be looking for what we're adding by here? If you started doing that, what are we going to see here? Plus 12, then plus, what's that plus? Plus 48. And then what's that plus?
I need to get a calculator.
I think so. Yeah, and then what's that plus?
768.
Okay. Is this going to get us anywhere? No. In fact, we could look at this, and what's that plus? Plus 36. And then what's that plus? I don't know, 150 something? 150...
That is not nice.
140 something. Long story short, is it going to get us anywhere?
No.
No. And you could actually keep doing that forever, and it's still not going to get you anywhere. And the reason it's not going to get you anywhere is that this relationship isn't based on adding over and over again. It's based on multiplying over and over again. In other words, it's an exponential relationship. Does that make sense? And this one, I think, makes that really obvious, right? Because we just see how fast they're growing. Sometimes it's not that obvious, right? But this one is. So that's good. So what we're doing here is we go up by 1 here. What is happening here?
Times
We are multiplying by
4.
4. Then as we go up 1 here, we are multiplying by
4.
4. As we go up by 1 here, we're multiplying by
4.
4. And as we go up by 1 here, we're multiplying by
4.
4. Okay. So this obviously tells us that we multiply by 4 each time. So that means I can start to build my equation. We're going to have y equals, and then some number, and then we're going to multiply it by 4 each time. And then, interestingly,
I put f of x.
that's fine. In fact, that's better. That's what we've been doing, right? I like that better. And then, interestingly, the fact that this only takes 1 change of the x, right, means that if I had to, I could put divide by 1 there, right? Do I need to even bother writing that?
No.
No. But I could have. Okay. Then what's the only other piece of information we need?
That the coefficient.
The coefficient, the starting value, the A value, whatever you want to call it, any of the above,
Isn't that-
which in this case is trivial. Shh, quiet for a sec. And why is it trivial? What did I give you in the table that makes it trivial? I gave you the 0 value. Does that make sense? I've told you that before we start iterating, before we start multiplying, the value is
4.
4. So that is the starting value, right?
Oh, I got it right.
You remember that from grade 9 math, I'm sure, right? That on a table of values, when x is equal to 0, that's the starting value. That's the initial value, right?
Can I go to the washer?
Yep.
All right.
So, there we can say start with 4 and multiply by 4 over and over and over again. Does that make sense? Why couldn't I just start with 1? Wouldn't that also give me a pattern of 4, 16, 64, 256, 10, 24? I mean, it would, right? Like if I started with, if my equation was y equals 1 times 4 to the exponent x, would that give me the same basic pattern? Right? I'd get 4, 16, 60, 64, right? Dot, dot, dot. But what would the first value be? 1. So even though it would give me the same pattern, they wouldn't line up in the same spot. Does that make sense? So this would be a very similar function, but wouldn't be the exact same function. Does that make sense? You could use that function to do the same job, but you'd have to be mindful of what x values you were doing. How's that feel? Not too bad? Okay. Now, we're starting with fairly easy ones. Today on all the examples, the x's go up by 1. We'll get to ones where you have to spot that it doesn't go up by 1. It's no big deal. But we're going to start off easy. Okay. Now we could evaluate this and say, if this was 8.5, what would the value be? Because now that we know this, our equation is f of x equals 4 times 4 to the exponent x. It wants us to know what happens when x equals 8.5. Well, that's trivial to evaluate. What would I do? It equals 4 multiplied by 4. How many times? 8.5 times. Which, by the way, is like saying 17 over 2. So if you want to, you could take the square root of 4 and then put it to the exponent 17. Or you could put this in your calculator. I think I would probably rather do that than do 2 to the exponent 17. Though maybe you can do 2 to the 17 in your head. I can't off the top of my head. No, 2 to the 8 is 256. 2 to the 9, I don't know, it'd be some big number. Is that useful, me saying that the answer is some big number? Do we all feel like we know it now?
Yeah.
All right, and again, do I want you to do this in your head? No, I want you to put in your calculator that you all got at the beginning of the class because you all understand that being in a math class, you're going to need a calculator every day. So, of course, you have them in front of you, right? If you didn't, go get a calculator, for God's sakes. What class do you think it is? Sorry, did I miss it and this is history class? And nobody told me that I should be teaching about, I don't know, the Boer War right now? I should be teaching you about Hammurabi's Law Code or something? You guys learned about Hammurabi's Law Code? It's the oldest law code that we have like written down. There were probably laws before that, but it's the oldest one we have records to. And so that's notable, right? And Hammurabi was this king in ancient Mesopotamia. But what's interesting, what I like about it is all the laws are like really over the top. So it's like, it's a lot of things like if you're sitting around the fire and one neighbor steals from another neighbor, he'll be cast into the fire. And then like, if somebody causes somebody else to get injured, he'll be killed. Like it's just all these very like over the top responses to things by like modern standards. You think like, I don't know, would people be better behaved if you knew that like if you like took somebody's, pencil when they weren't looking, you'd be thrown into a fire and killed? You'd probably be a lot less likely to steal, right? Like I'm anti-death penalty like on principle. I don't really believe in it, but I do think that like if you knew you were going to be thrown in the fire for minor offenses, you'd probably be better behaved than we are as a people. I think about this a lot with driving, where like if you learn to drive, I think we actually have a really dysfunctional system in Canada, and I actually think this affects like our worldview, where like we have the system of laws with driving that nobody enforces, and so we just have totally normalized like every day you drive wherever you're driving, and everybody is blatantly and flagrantly breaking the law. You know what I mean? And I think like that's actually a really unhealthy dynamic intellectually, because it just spreads in your mind the idea that like laws are just sort of this fungible thing that you can just kind of do what you want with. You ever think about that? Right? Like you don't do that in the States. Like in the States, especially in some places, in the States, if a cop sees you doing 5 over, they will pull you over and give you a ticket. Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, that's, and like, I would be fine with saying like we don't have maximum, just drive safely if that was the law. Like this is the suggested speed, and if you're found driving unsafely, as it happens, there's just a straight linear relationship between the max speed limit allowed and the death rate in automobiles. Like you go to Europe where they have these incredibly high speed limits and they have very high death rates in traffic accidents because, for those of you who take physics, EK equals 1/2 mv squared. Anyone taking physics yet? So what you'll note is that the energy your car has is not a function of its velocity, but of its velocity squared, which means if you're going twice as fast, you have 4 times as much energy. Does that make sense? Which means if you're going twice as fast, it doesn't take twice as long to stop. It takes 4 times as long to stop. But it also means if you do hit another vehicle, you don't hit them twice as hard. You hit them 4 times. So do you know what I mean? And so like the problem is like when you're driving 150 kilometers versus 100, so now you're talking about being like over twice as hard in impact, but like your spine hasn't gotten twice as strong. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm just saying that we have this very dysfunctional relationship with rules in this country, which I think is interesting and noteworthy. Yeah. Well, and like the thing to me is the speed is bad enough, but even worse than that, you just see the way normal people drive. And like, I gotta tell you guys, it's scary out there because like you go on the highway and the number of people you see just like, forget like right on the person's tail. That's obviously dangerous, right? But even still, like when people are like just, most people on the highway, anytime you're driving on the highway, the vast majority of cars, if the car in front of them stopped suddenly, they would rear-end the car in front of them. Like you simply do not have the time you need. And so the only reason you're not rear-ending the person in front of you, and potentially because you're at highway speeds killing yourself, is that you're lucky that they haven't suddenly stopped for some reason. But if they did, like if you are not leaving a serious distance behind the car in front of you, you are not actually able to stop should there be an emergency. And then you see it all the time where like, I couldn't believe it. When the construction on the 406 started last month, there were 7 days in a row when I was driving into Welland and there'd been an accident. Like not for something like where for miles in advance there's a big sign saying like construction ahead and then big orange arrows saying merge over, and like people are just bad enough drivers that that's not enough to prevent them from getting in accidents because they don't have like the planning skills to be like, oh, those big orange arrows telling me I need to get over, I should do that. Oh, I should do so in such a way that I don't hit the cars around. Like it doesn't speak well. Driving, the most dangerous thing most people will ever do in their life, and people take it so unseriously that they look at their phones and things like that. And I think we should have, like, I think there's a number of things that should just be disqualifying. I think if somebody's had one road rage incident in their life, they should never be allowed to drive again. If you're not mature enough to stay calm while operating a 2-ton bullet, you shouldn't be allowed to have a driver's license. I think that's non-negotiable. Like we give speeding tickets, but cops, not only do cops not pull over people who tailgate other people, but cops will tailgate other people. And you think that's far more dangerous. As dangerous as speeding is, like, forget it. No, a car's length? Are you kidding? A car's length at highway speeds? What? Oh my God, guys. A car's length at city speeds, at highways, did you hear what I just said? You think that if you are 1 car length behind the car in front of you and they hit something, you're going to be able to stop and not hit them? Are you crazy? Good Lord. This is what we're talking about. Again, I cannot stress enough. 85 to 90% of the people you see driving on the highway are in imminent danger at all times. And again, it's only by virtue of the fact that an accident hasn't happened that they aren't in an accident. And this is why, when accidents happen, it's often 5 cars involved, because nobody's driving safely. It's incredibly dangerous.
Also, the demerit point system, like, you, like, get caught for, like, being on your phone, and that's 3 demerit points off your license or whatever.
Yeah,
that's, like, so stupid, because you need, like, what, like 15.
Yeah.
So you have to be caught on your phone 5 times for your license to get taken away for like 60 days or something.
Yeah, like these, like it's impossible to overstate how dangerous it is. And to be clear, like pedestrian, and to say nothing of the fact that like for some reason everybody in Canada thinks they need to own a truck so that they can drive like the most fuel efficient vehicle in the world with one person in it and nothing in the bed ever. Because I swear to God, you drive on the highway and every vehicle is a truck and they never have anything in the back or any passengers, right? But then modern trucks are also like, the interior is the size of a limousine, and then they've got this tiny little bed like this. And then people complain about gas prices when they've spent $90,000 to buy the most fuel-inefficient vehicle conceivably imaginable. But putting all that aside, modern trucks, you look at the shape of them, and they are tall. And then instead of where the hoods used to slope down and the trucks used to sit lower, now these things sit high. The hoods are rammed straight like this, and like pedestrian deaths from vehicles are through the roof, right? I mean, just like... we're seeing rates of pedestrian deaths that are astonishing, despite the fact that vehicles have safety features they never used to have. They beep at you if people are there. And of course, it's because, distracted driving, cell phones, and like the physical design of vehicles, where if you're driving in a modern truck or a modern SUV, and every vehicle now, like, how many people own just straight cars, right? Everyone has these crossovers. They sit high, they have high hoods. And if there's a child in front of that vehicle, you cannot see them. That's a problem. So you cannot take driving seriously enough. And I know a few people who have caused other people's deaths in car accidents. It ruins your life. It's the type of thing you never get over. And it's a dangerous thing. So that's not to like scare people up, but it is to take it seriously. It's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. I didn't ask.
I've had my hand up the whole time.
Kiki, what's the answer? Yeah, and again, I think a highway speed of 120 is appropriate, but the question is then, like, how do people behave there? And by the way, let me tell you the last thing about driving, since we're on the topic. Let me explain something else. Just as dangerous as driving too fast is driving in such a way that you impede traffic and you're driving too slowly or unsafe. In other words, if at any point somebody is behind you trying to get by you, and you're not all the way to the right, then you are the problem. Even if they're breaking the law, it doesn't matter. The way traffic is designed to flow is that faster traffic gets to the and slower traffic gets to the... Right. So don't be one of these morons who goes like, this idiot's speeding, I'm not letting him by. You're being dangerous. If somebody's trying to get by you, let them by you. Get to the right. It's not your job to judge other people's driving. It's your job to make sure that everyone on the road is safe. And everyone on the road is safe when traffic isn't impeded, because this guy who's going 150 behind you isn't going to go, okay, I guess I'll go slower after all. They're going to pass you on the right, which you're not supposed to do, and now you're endangering everyone because you're stubborn. Likewise, some jerk hasn't merged over, and now they are at the last possible second, and you go, well, I'm going to prove something to him, and I'm not going to let him in. Don't be an idiot. Let everybody in. Merge in early as you can. And for people who don't merge in early, let them in. All right? Share the road safely and appropriately, and that's how accidents get prevented. It's not your job to be Batman, vigilante justice on the road. Just be a safe driver and account for other people and be courteous and conscientious.
And if you don't, you'll become like Batman's parents.
That's right. We don't want that.
A good way to put it, like my parents said, like drive defensively rather than offensively. It's like always don't be stupid.
And assume everyone else is stupid. A, because they are, and B, no, honestly, most drivers are terrible drivers. Most people are stupid. Most people make, like, in other words, like, you know this because, like, we have traffic jams. There's no reason for a traffic jam. At 8 a.m. when the 406 goes down to one lane, there should not be a traffic jam. There's plenty of road available. There's a traffic jam because people are irrational drivers. They behave unsafely, and they merge in at the last possible second. Then other people get mad about that and don't let them in, and everything shuts down. Like, when you're on the road, most people are stupid, and they're dangerous. They shouldn't be there, but they are. And you have to know that, because you could be the best driver in the world, but if the person next to you does something stupid, they can kill you in an instant. So you have to behave. So do you ever want to be next to another car? You should never be next to another car. Why in God's name would you do that to yourself when they might not notice you and just turn right into you? So don't be next to another car. The guy in front of you might not notice something in front of him to the last second to jam on his brakes. Do you want to be right behind him? Not if you're not an idiot, you don't. Leave some space, because you don't know that he's not going to be dumb and jam on the brakes. I'll never forget, my niece got in an accident once, and afterwards her big takeaway was, yeah, he jammed on his brakes and it was just nothing I could have done. I was like, you hit him from behind. That is definitively your fault. Like, there's no question about this. And if the lesson you have learned is that, oh, there's nothing I could have done, then you're an idiot. Like, that's not how you should go through life. You have to know that, like, it's your job to not get in a car accident, regardless of what happens around you. Does that make sense? Drive safely. Just like it's your obligation to get the answer to this question, which is what, Sam Brady? Yeah, please. Sorry, 524? So 524,288? No decimal places?
Nope, that's what I
No, and the reason we don't get a decimal place with this, which is weird because we even had a decimal exponent, but again, remember, another way to express that exponent would be 17 over 2. The over 2 means we have to take what of 4? The square root of 4. And as it happens, does 4 have a nice square root? Yeah, the square root of 4 is 2. So if you'd put just about any other number to the exponent 8.5, you'd get an ugly decimal. But 4 plays nicely because you can take the square root of 4. All right, that was a good one. Well done. Okay. This one, for now, I'm still going to work with x values that change by 1. But I've made this a little trickier because what haven't I given you?
0. X equals 0. Or the starting point. Which is
Yeah, I haven't given you 0. And then there's something else you'll notice here, but that's okay. I have faith in you.
You just do the reverse of, okay, so you figure out what 64 blah 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 equals 32, and then you do the reverse of that to get to 0 equals
Yeah, you bet you do. Get on it. Make it happen.
That is what I got.
Kizzy? Yep, beautiful. Well done. Very well done. Look at you.
You know, these
You could do it that way. You absolutely could do it that way. That's not how I'm going to suggest doing it, but it's not wrong.
me? Oh.
No, not you. You're good. But like like you absolutely can use a negative exponent to do this. There's other ways we can do it too. As soon as you get to exponential functions, there's an infinite number of ways to write every function. So there's a lot of right answers, but even more wrong answers.
Would I still work if I get the starting function by like getting 0?
Yeah.
Actually, that makes sense. So,
Stop.
Okay, so 0 equals 128.
that was.
That
Yeah,
was,
that's what I got.
that's good to know. Thank you, Seth.
Yay! Yippee! Hip hip hooray!
Huzzah!
Does everybody know what's going to be for lunch?
Kiki? Nope.
No, but
I'm in charge of tangents here, not you. Thank you. Be quiet.
I'm getting cafeteria anyway, so.
Excellent. I forgot to plug my car in for the last 3 days. So I got into the Eastdale parking lot today with 4 kilometers to go. I'm going to go to Canadian Tire and plug her in. I drive a Chevy Bolt. It's electric, so you plug it in at night. And but we have 2 electric cars, and I have 2 chargers. But last night, we as a department went out for dinner in Hamilton. So I drove to Hamilton and back, but there were a bunch of cars in my driveway. So I was like parked at the back of the driveway, and then when they left, I didn't go out and plug it in. And I've had something like that happen like 3 days in a row. I got in the car today, and it was like, you have 31 kilometers remaining. I'm like, it's 26 kilometers to work and 26 kilometers home. I guess I can go to Canadian Tire. Anyway, I got here.
Hold on, I got a question.
Sorry? This is the first time I've ever had this situation. And again, like, normally you start every day with, first of all, to save the life of my battery, I never charge it to 100%. I mean, I do if I'm going on a road trip or something, but day to day, I have it set only to charge to 75%, which is fine because that means I have like 400 kilometers range every day. But if you forget to plug it in, 400 kilometers is about a tank of gas. Like in a smaller car, that's usually what you'd get about, right? 400 or 500K. So you don't have to charge every day, but I usually do. But yeah, it turns out if you're going to do a trip to Hamilton and back and like a 50-kilometer commute every day, it turns out 4 days is your limit. And on the 5th day, you're going to potentially run out of thing. Anyway, at least I wasn't on a first date. Okay, talk to me.
Is
Quiet you.
negative exponent bad?
No, it's not how I'm going to do it, but it's a perfectly reasonable approach to this question.
Okay, so, alright. I
Yeah,
was talking about, like,
maybe hypothetically, a really good test question could be: could you write 4 different exponential equations for this?
No.
Full disclosure, there's definitely gonna be something like that on there because I think it's fun.
Actually,
And it's not. And when you think about it, like it's not. That's not as hard as it seems, right? It really isn't. Anyway, what's the relationship here? What are we doing to get from this number to that number?
we're dividing it by
And you could say dividing by 2. That's absolutely not wrong. If I was going to insist that we multiply, what are we multiplying by?
half.
Yeah, you could do 0.5, or if you wanted to, I like fractions, you could say multiply by a half, right? And then what's happening here? Multiply by a half, and then multiply by a half, and then multiply by a half. So, and what are we changing by here every time? Just 1, which is nice. So, we've got the basis of our equation already. We can already say that we are making a function where we have some starting value and we multiply it by a half over and over again, and I don't need to divide by anything because what do the x's go up by each time? Just 1. Does that make sense? If the x's went up by 5 each time, how would I have to change this equation? X over 5, right? If it changed by 10 each time, it'd be x over 10, right? But in this case, it's just changing by 1. Is that comfortable? All right, now, this one, it's actually pretty easy to work out the 0 value because the first way we can do that is just work your way back to 0. And in this one, that's definitely the way to do it because how close to 0 are we?
Very close.
You're only 1 away. And so if we added 1 here, then to go backwards, we'd just subtract 1, right? And if we go multiply by a half to go forward, then we would do what to go backwards? Divide by a half. And dividing by a half is the same thing as saying multiplying by 2. So this number would be
128.
128. Therefore, 0 lines up with 128. And so therefore, we can say that the initial value is 128, and we're multiplying it by half every time. Does that feel okay? Okay. But keep in mind that if it was hard, we could always do what you probably did a million times in grade 10 math, and we've done a couple times here as well, which is we could always sub... Oh, I put one in there for you. No problem. We could always sub a point into the equation, right? So if we didn't know it, right? If we had an ugly table with numbers that didn't work, and what we had was y equals a times a half to the exponent x, right? We could sub a point in. Does it matter what point you pick? Okay. Let's pick the easiest one on. Well, let's not pick the easiest one on here because you wouldn't do this if you had the easiest one, right? So let's say we want to use 2 and 32. Does that make sense? So then we would say x equals what?
2.
Let x equal 2 and let y equal
32.
32. And now we can just sub those into an equation. We can say 32 equals a times a half to the exponent 2. Does that make sense? And now how would we solve for a? Well, could we do this math? What is a half to the exponent 2?
I have to just
1 to the exponent 2 is 1. 2 to the exponent 2 is 4. So a times a quarter equals 32. How do I get rid of multiplied by a quarter? What's the opposite of multiplying by a quarter? Dividing by a quarter, or we could just say multiplying by 4. Does that make sense? If we multiply this by 4, it goes away, right? If I do that to one side, what do I have to do to the other? Multiply 32 by 4, and we would end up with a equals, what's 32 times 4? 4 times 3 is 120. 4 times 2 is 8, so that should be 128. Does that make sense?
I didn't even think about that.
So most times, if the table is nice, just do this, right? Does that make sense? Like, which of these was easier?
The first one.
Definitely just looking at the table, right? So if the table's nice, just play nice. But if the table's ugly, set up your equation without a, and then just sub in your x and y values. And I'm just going to make a quick note to remind us there. If we wrote this as steps, one would be write the equation with a as the starting value.
Please tell me this is
And then
something
2 would be use the x and y value from any point, right? From any row on the table. And then 3, rearrange to solve for your a value. Now again, which of these is easier? Boy, is it's easier in this case to work with the table. But sometimes, is the table going to be really ugly and not be nice to work with to get back to 0? Yeah, right? Like if this had been, if these had been way up with x values in the 100, are you going to want to work your way back all the way to 0? No, right? So in that case, set up an equation. And now, what if x equals 12? What if x equals negative 2? How would I solve for f equals 12? Or x equals 12, rather? F at 12 is what? Kirk, that was adorable. That was such a cartoon character shrug. I really enjoyed it.
Wait, what's the question? I wasn't paying attention. I was writing Mr. Ticklesack Deluxe the third on my calculator.
So we're evaluating f at 12. What do we get?
That'd be 128 times a half. I wrote 0.5.
That's fine. 12 times, right?
12 times.
Awesome. And take a minute, make sure you work that out. And what about here? This would be take 128 and multiply it by a half, negative 2 times, which I guess means we're not actually multiplying by a half, we're dividing by a half. How many times?
2.
Twice, yeah. So there we go. You can work both those out. This one should actually get bigger, right? This should be, is that 512?
Yeah, 512.
And then this, oh my God, I'm not going to pretend I can do this.
0.03125.
Is that what you got? 0.01. 0.3125?
No, 0.03125.
I'm sorry, I'm doing my best, team.
You suck!
Shh, quiet. That may be true, but we can be polite here. And Scarlett, what did you tell me? 1/32. Is that true? Oh yeah, because we multiply it 128. 1/32. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
Put it into a fraction. I'm gonna keep mine as decimal.
Sorry? Well, if your calculator said, dinosaurs weren't real, would you believe it? I don't know, but what if it did?
I would probably think that I'm dreaming or on something.
What would you do if you put 1 plus 1 into your calculator, pressed equals, and it said dinosaurs weren't real? Huh? What would you do?
I'd take a nap.
You would take a nap. You just discovered a sentient calculator that also happens to be a liar, and your first thought is, well, I could use a nap. I'd probably be like, what's 2 plus 5? And it would be like, I don't know. Diet Coke is better than Coke. Hot take. Right? By the way, Diet Coke's better than Coke.
Just multiply it by the denominator.
Sorry? Do you agree? Right? It just is. Yeah, it tastes... Okay, no, let's be clear. Soda is bad for you. It's not like, oh, I'm a purist. I only eat the finest Coca-Cola. Right? It's healthy. I'm a real health nut. Yes, which is why Coke Zero less good than Diet Coke. Because Diet Coke tastes better than Coke. Don't get me started on Pepsi. That stuff's way too sweet.
I love Pepsi.
If you're into super sugary, then Pepsi's probably your thing. I like acidity.
Hold on,
I like
Mr.
something
Orlando,
to be
hear me out,
acidic.
hear me out.
And bitterness. I like a little bit of bitterness. I'm acidic and bitter. I like my beverages like I like my personality. Acidic and bitter. And bubbly. I'm acidic, bitter, and bubbly. Work that out. Yeah.
I like Karthik how I like my coffee. I don't like coffee.
Wow, that was hurtful. Okay, listen up. I got 2 things for you. A rather easy assignment on exponents. Shall we make that due Monday?
Yeah.
Sure. We'll make that due Monday. You can come grab that. and some homework for this. Go grab one of each. Get thee going. And you got some time. Don't waste it. All right?
That's really nice. May I do the quiz?
Absolutely. 100%. No problem.
I know.
In my car.
Yeah, I know you're kidding. Actually, no. I didn't take it back. Never mind.
Wow.
I'm always hitting on you? Oh, hitting?
Scarlett, stop hitting on people. God, this is math class, not find Scarlett a partner class. Settle down.
Alright, so she said you're always hating on me, but then you said you're always hitting on me. I'm like, when have I ever...
Kiki, sit down and shut up. Get to work.
You see how many tips I get with that? Text her, she's like, do you
There was one night I got a $10
Mr. Orlando.
tip by an old man.
Mr. Orlando, I got a question. That wouldn't happen to be my textbook.
I do get tips like 2 hours during mobile ads, but then I'm like, I don't even care.
What number is it? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, that was easy. Hey, look at us.
Yippee! I get to actually I was panicking because I couldn't find my textbook at home, so I was like, oh no. Farthest it would be at home. I wouldn't bring it anywhere. I wouldn't be going to an A&W doing some math. Trying to.
I wouldn't be going. Can I say, choosing A&W for that was the best of all possible choices. And one away from Barry. Thank you. Glad we had this talk. Get to work. I'm here to help you.
12 divided by 4.
Me? Yeah, I'm tough. First thing people notice about me. Also the last if they're not careful. Yeah. Yeah. Stop doing that. Oh my god. You kind of deserved it. Oh my. Hey, dude.
I kissed Lily and she didn't like it. What? No, like that, you didn't like it. I was just scared. I don't know what.
Did you say that math is less fun than Monopoly?
Whenever girls interact with her, she gets very, like,
scared. Can I tell you, I admire that you stick with it. I really do. Because I know you don't love this. I feel like you've got kind of gaps in your math, right? Which puts you at disadvantage. Because again, like when the stuff that you aren't bringing with you from the previous years, then like do you get that feeling?
I hate looking at pictures of
I saw a picture. The teacher goes like, and of course this thing you already know, and you're like, I don't already know it. Can I tell you I feel bad? That's okay. I'm gonna check. Can you take a look at it?
I altered them.
So we're gonna sign up first because we'll get started. So we'll look back. So for these, do you have highlights?
I don't
Oh, they put them in the office.
My friend did it on Facebook and then
Play
I
guitar.
saw his Facebook page.
Do you play
I
guitar?
followed him from like 2022.
We should teach you to play guitar. You work.
I want to learn guitar.
You should learn to play guitar. You should all learn to play guitar. You can form a band.
Those two have it. Ask her on You guys have not had an initiative. I will do that.
What's your Insta?
You never asked me that. You know, we're not supposed to.
So loud.
Macon _13.
Say it again.
Macon _13.
Just such a peaky, and literally the first thing that showed up.
There's a bird of my bird and me.
First one here, all we're doing
I got some from
is you can't actually add this thing, right? Because every one of them has some X in it, and we don't actually know what that number is. So it's not, you're not going to get this and get an answer that says like.
My grandma says I'm a failure because I'm not a real.
But it doesn't say a value. It doesn't say you made the answer. It says simplify. Simplify means that there's a way to write this that isn't as messy, isn't as fun. So 3x squared plus 2x minus 11x
2 large copies, 2 donuts, minus 11, and then we're like, oh, that's the same thing as that. So it's like, you get me 3 large copies, and then 11 large copies. Well, does that make sense that those two match? Are there any other pairs that match? Any other like terms, like you call them?
Can we have our quizzes back?
Exactly right. All you're doing is looking for the ones that have the exact same
I don't know how to do that.
to where?
Give me a minute. Is that bio quiz?
Anyway, so now, when we go to simplify this, all you do is just adding together the coefficients. When you're adding, you're not changing the x's at all. So in other words, see how this says x squared and this says x squared? So we're going to have some x squared. So the question is how many? We'll start with 3.
The question was 12 divided by 4. I don't know why
So we took away how many? 4.
Which equals 3.
Negative 2. Now do the same for the x. Starting with
That's okay.
okay. And then what happens? And that'd be plus 11. And then just don't forget the calculator, you tell it that it's an x. And then this is 2 x's and 9 x's, so this will be 11. Cool. And then the last one.
What's 7 minus 3?
That's right. And since there's nothing else to go with, so that's when you add powers, you can only do that if they're exactly the same. If they have to have the same base and the same color.
Yeah.
So you can't add these two together. You can add those two. And add these two. Alright. But now, we're not adding anymore, we're dividing. Right? Wow. So the trick is now you actually still have everything right. When you do 12 divided by 4, if it works out nicely, you can write a wrong number. If it doesn't, then we'll have to
Multiply first. Yes.
So that's easy.
Oh.
And now,
So the exponent 1 over.
at the top of the 2x, and then we're dividing one of them by that. The big divide is that we have 2 on the top, right? There's no number on the exponent for the exponent on the bottom. So if there's no number
Exponent
left,
will be 1 over whatever.
exactly. And then when you divide, the exponents are not going to get bigger because exponents being multiplied to the right. If you're dividing, the exponents are getting smaller. So what's the multiplication?
You don't do that.
Exactly. And then we do the same for y's. How many y's were on the top? And then there's 3 on the bottom. And since that means dividing when you look at the exponents. And then x to the whatever y.
When was that?
Oh yeah,
All right. Who are you? You want me to speak? Who are you?
that is Tiana. She's in the office. Yeah, so bedrest still applies. There are ways to kind of go out of bedmass when they're at work. But there's also a lot of ways to go out of bedmass when they're at work. Screw it up. When in doubt, it's a good idea just to follow bedmass. Sure.
Aiden. Sorry, like I see my talking. So, see how failure.
Not multiply.
How do you see failure there? Look at your grade. Look at your grade. Why are you calling me?
So yeah, if you have bracket around it, that squared is going to square the x, and it's also going to square the. It squares every single thing in the bracket.
I just get the H.
If you remember that, it's a source that fuels in bracket.
I go with a precursor than like regular writing, so it's long.
Then it says we have to write
Samuel.
not obviously we can't do x squared.
Oh, Samuel. Oh, you're over there too, girl.
If you have 2x and then that is all
Square root is what?
That makes sense?
62.
So 62 is, so now we're just going to leave the 3x alone, right? We're going to leave the 6x squared alone, and we're going to deal with this exponent, because it's saying square both is 2
Square root of the power of 2.
and except for the two things in the left,
Square root of
2,
Same thing with
so we'll have a 2 that's going to be squared, and we're going to have an x. Now, there's nothing you can do with the x.
What is this?
But actually, you can do 2 squared. And if you know it in your head, great. If not, you're in trouble. 2 squared is?
And know that.
Look how Annie marked mine. Annie's such a jerk.
Wow, Annie.
2 squared is 4.
0 because I'm
And we have
mean.
x squared. And then on the bottom we have.
Good job, Seth.
We're getting close. Now this says multiply. And we can multiply, we know how. And just like here, when you're dividing, we do the numbers first, right?
What you
Both
get?
right,
You should be really proud of
Here,
yourself.
let's do the numbers first. 3 times 3.
Yeah,
I got 69, and I'm not mad at it because I think
Beautiful.
it's
That's
really
really
good.
great. And now, let's deal with
Ayla.
x. We have x and x. And what should we do?
Ayla.
Both exponents, right?
Beautiful.
So the exponent on this one
Here
is
you go.
this minus now we will be
Sarah.
so we multiply these, we actually add the exponents. Yep.
Lily.
And you're ready? 2 and 1, so it'll be which is?
I don't throw it on 92.
And now we can division. Oh my god! Same thing, we do numbers. Just like we did 3 times 4 and 12. Now we'll do 12 divided by.
If you explain how the just
I was right. Guys, far too noisy. Far too noisy.
Angela. There you go.
Listen, you average it around there. That's all passing. And then
Can I just say, Mr. Orlando?
like, yeah.
I realized my mistakes when I handed it in because they were such stupid things like not multiplying fully in. But I do know what I'm doing.
You're allowed to make mistakes.
Everybody makes mistakes. I'll come back with
Kiki,
you.
shut up. Get to work. Annie, also shut up. Get to work. Stop! Just sit down. Less snorting, more sitting down and doing math. Oh my god. Correct me if I'm wrong. You like had drop off two times or something? Yeah. One is adding. I always saw that I know by her. In like English class, you can go anywhere and be like, Sarah, you're fired up, right? Bio class, you can mostly do that. Right? And then math is a different animal. You're missing. So it's giving take this time to do stuff. And like that's the question. And you got out and you're really good twist. And like you just get the direction. You are
I listen to real music. TV girl.
I don't have like
Billie Eilish is
what you're describing is like me in physics class. Like, that was never gonna be my like class I got like 90s or like art class. That's cool. I'm here. I'm gonna try and draw an eyeball now. It's gonna tell me my eyeball sucks. And then
Oh my god.
sculpt a hand and it'll tell me my hip sculpt the hand sucks. I'll do that. You know what I mean? Like, don't. You are more than you do. Go back and die. And like how
You're gonna love it.
it's to your 10. And feel like how like you need to get 9. You absolutely more than that. If you want it loud, oh, that's great.
Oh, okay.
Especially
You
stuff
guys.
just like money.
They have the same
This
food.
stuff?
You want number 3?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Spend a lot of time doing it.
Yo, what did you get for one?
Number one what? Number one what?
I get the sense that stuff is loaded there.
The color percent
One, you are in no danger of not getting it.
know what's inside the ground.
But like, I would encourage you to getting the report when I go back.
We're missing out.
Come to me beforehand and be like, hey, can I do this? And roll it out. And I think you're averaging like 60-ish on all tests. And then just make sure everything goes and everything is fine.
I had expected. I forgot them
And you know what? Do you know what both those people do exactly never?
I'm not laughing at anybody.
They definitely don't. Simplify radically. That is something that you know what I mean? Like, you like get it right now.
Carlos getting
And,
messy in a
you
math
could do
popping
those
event.
things. I'm just looking. Those actually.
Oh!
Imagine this clouds on it.
Are we okay?
She's joking.
Okay. What I need you to do, Kiki, is bring the energy down a bit.
My assignments, I've done the first.
You'll note that my comment had nothing to do with math. I need you to just bring the temperature down just a little bit, alright? Just simmer down.
I won't
Okay?
sleep for 10 hours
I
again.
love you, Keith. Simmer down. It's up to you.
That's what I do.
Anywhere there's a negative exponent, so the 2 is just gonna, just like you had it, the 2 is gonna stay right there, right? And the 5 is gonna. The 5 doesn't have a negative exponent.
Do you want the grilling of your lifetime?
What's 6 the A is a positive, so it's gonna. What's 6 plus 6?
I'll send you the math kernel.
Now, we're done with the tops, right? Now look at the bottom. 5 stays where it is. The X is negative. Which would mean division, but it's already divided, which means actually it's being, which means it's going to be. Yeah, the exponent is. And then the Y.
Scarlet is rad. I did make that makes sense. I heard that now.
How's that feel?
Like my note?
I like it. What is it? Oh yes, it is like I did like oh really funny. I thought it was in music and it was a vacuum.
Are you saying it is, can you say
You want to borrow mine? What? You had the best one. Oh my god. What's next? November 3rd? The funniest thing.
Are you Jesus Lizard 37?
You should follow me.
I'm taking you down. Why am I not on the video?
Can I just say, this was the most like
Oh!
toxic interaction I've witnessed. Like, holy crap, you people suck. Okay, hold on. Everyone at this table right now has to say something kind.
That's like if you
Go, something kind. Go, go. And nothing sarcastic. Go sit down. No, you suck. Yeah. Shut up. You shut up.
Do you want me to send you some nuggets?
corn? Yeah.
Alex asked me to turn it down.
And it's just like, okay, never gets you feel better.
So can you divide that or no? Can you
Yeah,
divide
I
X
know that
squared by
you
X
put your name
squared?
on it, so
Let's see.
that's why I'm just saying if you put your name on it, but she didn't.
I'm asking Scarlet Lily.
Oh, I can't get X on my calculator.
Me neither.
Well, it's great. Now, the only thing that's totally right, it's just clumsy the way it's written. So it's exactly right. But there's no point saying 5 times 1, right? You wouldn't say you're what, 16? You wouldn't say you're 16 times 1 years old. You could, but if you're wrong, you'd be a weirdo, right? You'd be a weirdo. You'd be like, hey, how old are you? And they're like, 16 times 1. You'd be like, that wasn't a thing. Something, I don't know what you say, right? Something like that. Right? You'd be like, this is right? So, instead of saying 5 times 1 on the top, what could we just say on the top? 5 times 1.
Yeah.
5. And then on the bottom, we have because you already have something. Thing that was already on top was 5, Same with this. Some of the things are going to go to the bottom of the bracket. But the things that don't go to the
what did you get on question 1C?
Like if it helps, this is a fraction already. It doesn't have anything on the bottom.
Cool, that's cool.
You can think of that as fractions. You work.
I bet you really know math.
Oh, really? It looks like there's nothing missing. I guess I'm confused. All right.
Show us how to step out of that.
It's so easy.
He was
Thrown it in there and then multiply it.
I don't think that actually works. Yes, but same with this as well. Those aren't wrong, but the flunky. And
Seth,
now, do the next step.
can you help me with something?
What's that
Can
as
you
a one?
explain how I would tackle this question?
Right,
And
and then you
almost
say
like,
x to the
don't
power
know the
four,
answer, but
then
like, what
to
are
the
the
power
steps
one.
that I should be
Yeah,
doing?
it's not wrong. What's that as a single?
Honestly, I was confused about this too, but then I remembered like
Well, yeah, that's the question. How do you do that?
basically when you have a negative exponent.
What do you do with powers of power?
So
I'm serious.
I'm just gonna say that.
No longer check.
So for this, it would be 5 over x cubed. Because the reason is asteroid 5.
Okay, so are we allowed to take the coefficient from the x and we're allowed to write them out?
From the looks of it, yes.
Okay.
Because what I did here was I even double checked the x equals 1 y equals x just to see if what I did here was
Yeah, that's the answer.
Okay.
Now, if I told you what x was,
very confusing, honestly.
the whole point is we don't know what x is. So that's you're simplifying. You're not giving me an answer. Right? You can't get an answer from that on 11 because.
It's like V896.
You.
Sorry, I didn't
Very.
get pressure plug.
Very. Yes. Better the bend. You get the name. Now, a negative exponent, a positive exponent means multiply it by. Right? So, yeah, like 6 is the exponent 6. Actually, the ones.
So is that like right? And like at the end of it, sometimes I get like therapy?
If you have a negative exponent, instead of multiplying, you multiply.
How's your leg?
Yeah, exactly. Divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6. And of course, you don't have to put a number in front of this. If you're dividing by it, you need a starting number. And if it didn't give us a starting number, that's the default starting number.
How did you get Leo printed? That's not Leo, is it? It looked like Leo. Okay, you can't tell me that doesn't look like Leo.
Mr. Orlando, can you help me with this one question?
In a couple of minutes, okay? Just do your best with it for the moment. So,
The only question I had.
and the other way to write that is 1 divided by 6. Which that is easy to listen at, right?
I know what it is.
So if you have a negative, you can also just say, so that's 1 over, right? So these are just 2 different ways of saying the same thing. This is divided by 6, and that, and this one is divide by 6. It means negative.
That's what I used to do.
And sometimes this makes more sense. Sometimes that makes more sense. Sometimes that makes more sense, but that's fine. So you're 5. Feel okay? So we hit 5. And then if this was positive, we take 5 and multiply it. If this is a negative, what happens is take 5 and divide it by x.
Sorry, who said that? What? I yelled at my like 12-year-old.
So the other way you say that is take 5 and divide it by
Like take a risk and
how many
stuff.
times?
Like, if you say that one more time, I will not serve you.
And
And then later you like this battery.
the sum of them is this one here. If it's multiplication, just keep it on the table. Right? So here, 3 is going to stay up top, just like 5 did. And then here, we're not dividing by x, we're multiplying by x twice, right? So where's it going to stay? Z, multiplying by 5, is also going to stay. And the only one that's going to be on the bottom is the only one that's divided by. Which one is that? Does that make sense? Seth, what's up?
Just trying to I got a strategy going.
Okay, cool. Try it out and then come back. Okay.
Hold on. Oh, I got it. Never mind. I don't need you anymore. I don't need you anymore. I figured it out.
That'd be great.
Oh, what I write? All right, I wrote.
Shut up. Do work.
I wrote this.
Also shut up. Also do work. We got a case of the Holy Fridays.
All the way back there.
Fridays gets company.
No, I like mine. Wait, what's the thing?
Yeah, someone's running off on me. I'm just gonna like keep walking.
I thought you were like knew it was. Well, I hate him, so.
No problem. So if a cop is showing up means shut up.
Take it.
Put it on my desk and just be quiet.
Can I go to the cafeteria instead?
Yes.
So I can get in line early.
Fine with that.
All right, thank you. This is my exit ticket.
X to the power of 4. We know that that's another way of just saying X times X. Right? What if I have X to the power of negative 4? What's that mean? Well, it means divide by X.
Should probably put this.
Divide by X, right? And of course, you don't need to put a number in front. You do actually. Like, what are we dividing? And if there were a number in front, we put it. If there wasn't a number in front, so what's actually the number in front? No, because what this actually means is that there's 1, right? So look at this. This says take 1 and divide it by X how many times? Or the other way we write that is take 1 and divide it by X 4 times. These all mean the same thing. No. These all mean the same thing. What are we starting with? No, we're starting with 1. Here we're starting with 5. And then what are we doing?
Okay.
Divided by X. Divided by X. Divided by X. That's it. That's all I get.
My mom got
And take 5 and what? Divide by how many times? Does that make sense? Right here, you're going to take 3 and you're going to multiply it by X
Someone
twice,
there?
right? Then what are you
I think it shows that minus 5 is suicide.
Okay, we can play some Sonic the Hedgehog.
What's going to stay on top? What's going to end up in the bottom? What else? What's on top?
Hey, you guys should take on the
Me leaving early failed without a doubt.
Oh, fantastic. Well done.
Good morning, Eagles. On today's cafeteria menu, we have butternut soup for $2, taco salad for $5, and our featured entree penny with meatballs for $5, and pizza for $2 a slice. We'll also be having cookies for $1 each.
What a mess.
That's all on today's cafeteria
And
menu.
this,
Have a great day,
that means
Eagles.
something different. That means taking Oh, you did. So. It doesn't mean start dividing the exponent. The exponent means divide. So what this is saying is take 5, right? And then divide it by X. Divide it by X. Divide it by X. Now you would never write it.
I wasn't even like,
Right?
I didn't even care.
But that would be like saying take 5 and divide it by X. And then divide by X and divide by X. Which is like saying 5 over X. And you're never going to actually show these. But to show where they come from, that means, it doesn't mean X to the 1/3. That means a totally different thing. That means take the 2 root of X. This is saying divide. So here, we're starting with 3. We're multiplying it by X. How many times? Twice. Then, negative exponent means we're dividing it by what? Y. How many times are we dividing it by Y? So what should I write? Y?
Yeah. It's okay.
That's right. It's not negative anymore because negative sign meant divide, and now I'm showing that by dividing, right? And then the Z squared, where is it? Does that make sense?
I'm having trouble with 2, but like most of
Right? Well, dividing division is like subtracting a negative. In other words, when you divide division, it becomes, well, the exponent becomes bottom, that means it's saying, oh, actually divide by this. But since you're already dividing, it actually means, oh, so the x's were actually not dividing, were actually, which means they should actually be where on the fraction?
I have one question on the top.
So I just flip it.
Yeah, flip it. You move just the x. Flipping is the wrong way to think of it. Instead of dividing by x plus fractions, you're going to now actually be multiplying by x plus fractions.
This is essentially just switch to the two.
Yep. What's up, dude?
Okay, so I think I chose two. I think I got these two, but I'm not sure.
So you were showing all of this because I said
Yeah.
you, but not all of us.
But that's okay, because we're getting to remember what they have. So let's look at a simple scenario. Let's say we had x to the power of 3. We know that means x is x.
Oh, do you want a picture for us?
We have 2x to the power of 3.
That's not
We know that means
which one?
2 multiplied by x and by x.
Okay, but it has
Right? What if we had
when I'm old.
2x?
I think I also have to do it a Christmas
What does
picture.
that mean?
I have a few of you as a baby.
What are we doing now? Divide by x, then divide by x, then divide by x. Right? What's another way we can write that? We can write it as 2 divided by x, divided by x again, and divided by x again.
Yeah.
Right? Those are equal. So
You have to put your stuff on it.
because then you actually here you now just said, because 3 divided by 1 is just 3. So now you said 5x negative is equal 5x positive. Right? So what is it saying? Is it is saying start with 5.
Oh my
Oh, is this yours?
I have another one. I think it might have more.
You lost the
Sarah.
Is this better album cover or is this?
How many times did you buy another one? Let's go, girls. This one's just like that one. B is actually division. So where is it going to move to?
I have one for
Yeah, but then this was division, and then it was saying like divide, but we're already dividing. And when you divide by division, you know what you do with division. You invert the second fraction, right? Which means it becomes multiplication.
Getting it right now.
eventually. It would be cool like
No.
I need
No adding and multiplication. See any matic at all? And is there any exponent on the 5? No, so it's being divided by. So when you do one of these, you already have fractions. Keep your fraction, right? And then just start going. First of all, because I didn't make this one where you had to add in the subtraction, but you might as well, because check. Can I divide 2 by 5 nicely? No, right? So I'm going to leave this 2 bits.
So you move it up
Okay,
here.
then a squared. Are there any a's on the bottom to add or subtract from it? And that's a positive exponent, so it's on the top, and it should be on the top because it's where it belongs. Keep going. B. It's got a negative exponent. Is there any other b's to change it? Now, a negative exponent means we're dividing, so where should it be? So what do I write?
No way. Are you
Okay, now let's just keep going. We have an x. It's down here. It's got a -4. Any other exponents to change it? Okay. So I could just leave it here. It's a negative exponent, which
Go
means
buy your
it's...
land, but I don't know. I don't know.
That's right. So where do I put it? And what do I write?
You just flip them up there, yeah.
And then I've got a y to the exponent 2. And is there any y's to change it? And it's a positive 2. So do I change it?
That's depressing.
So where does it go? There we go. How's that?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Awesome.
Where do I put this?
Once you go like that.
Should I keep it? I feel like Orlando's gonna lose it. I'm gonna keep it. Orlando's 100% losing it.
The times I actually responsibly take out my notebook to do work, nope, never need that shit. Times when I close my bag and just stay, like,
When do you usually need like handwritten notes?
no.
I feel like this.
And I only write handwritten notes on that. I don't do my homework on actual notes.
Okay,
I just usually do my homework on
kinesiology is like the only one that I like.
do handwritten
Until now.
Why now? All of a sudden. Trying to be organized.
I don't know why, Kanisha. What you using? Notebook is the only one that actually looks good.
Look at this.
It's pretty. Is that mine?
Yeah. Just be like me, bro. Look how organized.
No.
One of these days I'll organize my mind.
Is the days good?
Absolutely not.
You said you want to organize your mind for the
I might here this weekend. He's probably out. I'm not gonna kill
We're going
myself.
to the corner store.
We're not?
I don't know. I want to pick certain stuff.
Okay, then we'll go. I'll go like after school. So.
No.
Why?
I feel bad.
For what? I didn't even remember until you told me. Should I get my wallet for 10 minutes?
You actually did.
Yeah, I did. Just fucking
Oh,
look at
let's do
it. It's my
baby
dad's card.
photos
No,
again. Let's
it's
do
my dad's
baby
card
photos.
anyway. Ew. No.
You look like a criminal. Hold up.
No, no, no. It's a criminal offense to take a photo of someone's ID.
Do not take. Why is it upside down?
I gave my dad's card back to him.
Oh, where's that go? Your signatures piss me off.
What?
Oh,
I don't think anybody else
That is not good. Ew.
I'm watching.
My signature now looks much better.
I'll get a drink.
Guys, do you guys want to stay here or walk to the corner store with us? Okay. And then I'm gonna do. Okay. Which one is right? Okay, we'll be back in like 10 minutes.
Let's be honest. Which way is this better? Okay.
Devin, are you
You
going?
got that.
Are you going?
Then you have
You're going after you, me and Drea?
that.
second.
Yeah.
But like I was so used
Yeah.
to starting my A from this side and starting it from here.
Just go with them, please.
Huh?
What's that?
But you know you're writing from left to right, not right to left. You see how like this one, like continues. That's the point of things.
Here, like, if you go on your Instagram, maybe I can find out what it is.
I know.
Imagine if we forgot to.
Wait, I got this.
Really?
What? That's a cube.
See. I think. Oh, there she is.
Apple.
Where'd she go? This one. This is her. That's what I'm
Oh, I
gonna
need
do.
to try my meat.
These are peanut butter.
Oh, you can like hear it in my elbow this one.
I don't know how she's like this one. Like, this is her, and she's a super like.
I just know.
I know. I was just like, so we messaged her and I was like, reply, saying, because we were asking, I was like, for the community classroom, who's your girlfriend? And he didn't say.
Oh, she did look at me for the bus cuts.
She didn't even want for the bus cut, so. Oh, right, we don't care about her. Anyway. What are you eating? What are those? Where's the corn? Is it like a hot dog but wrapped 360? Yeah. Okay.
There's a stick.
Do you not have lunch? There's a free burger. I have none.
Ooh, food, ooh.
Please. What place is it? Please. Oh, thanks. Isn't that just peach? No. Why can't they just say it's peach juice? Oh, thank you. So, what's up? Anything new? No. No? Are you sure? Yeah. Do you drink soup with them?
I have, but I.
Well, then I don't think you can quite out them out because then
Exactly.
you would out Evo.
But he's the parent. He's like 40 years old. Why is he giving alcohol to underage kids? And his one friend that he like had a crush on, it's a girl.
Your dad's friend?
Yeah. And yeah, it was this girl, a married woman with like 3 kids, and he had a crush on her and would follow her around all around the trailer park. She made me bitch take shots with her. She's like 30, also, no, 40 probably, yeah, she has like 3 kids. She's old. And she's like, let's do this.
Maybe just don't hang out with her.
And then her daughter, she's like, yeah, they're probably smoking and getting high in the tent right now. Like, I don't know. Girl. She's younger than us too. I think she was like 15.
Really?
Yeah.
So, whatchamacallit? Oh, her dad lives in a trailer? Why is there a trailer park?
They just own the park. Like, not the park, they own the trailer at the park. And they go through it pretty easily. But I think they sold it this year because they're getting a cat.
Is it just alcohol that he gets you?
Mm-hmm. But the neighbors that were in the trailer next door, me and Paige always caught them doing coke. Coke.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would always see them doing coke in their little what is that thing called? Not a backyard. The thing that are in backyards. Like the little cabin, but not cabin. What the fuck are those called? Sheds, yes. In their shed in the backyard trailer, we always would see them like snorting lines of coke. And the girl, she's like, I think she's 25 or 23. She would always give us alcohol too. And getting back over her, I'm good. And her boyfriend that they broke up, but her boyfriend that was there all the time, I literally loved them. Not just him. I loved
What is going on, Bria? Bria!
Yes, I gotta go.
Where?
I gotta go to the office. My tracking came.
Can I go walk with you?
Yes, you can come with
Why
me.
would you not invite me?
No, come, quick. Quick, come! I'm excited! I've been waiting for this for like a
Are you
month.
the only one who got it?
Yes. Charlotte, I think she ordered one, but I've been waiting for literally a month. Like, actually, over a month and a week. And I just got an email from Miss McGlynn telling me that it's here.
You got an emo?
Davin, why are you arguing again?
I'm so happy. Quick, hurry!
Where's Joe?
He's at the sports thing.
Well, that is not conducive to what I wanted to do right now. 11:06.
I don't know where the hell he's at. So he's scheduling. There's a scheduling packet for this group today. Alright. No, only that's in the very long. You get those.
space U P. UP. No. You don't pee? Okay, let's read it.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
I'm pretty ready. Because like this is all my information.
That's it?
Yeah.
Your last name's Nathan? Oh.
That's why I didn't put it on the hoodie.
Why? It's your last name. You're proud of it. Ish.
Put left.
It's okay. It's gonna be huge. It isn't huge, okay. It is ginormous. Oh my god. Oh my god. Why is it so tiny? It's okay. I want to
Trust
it.
me.
I want to one.
Over this?
Yeah, no, not over it.
But then you have to take it off or what?
I haven't taken it off on it.
Oh.
Guys!
What? You got your thread.
Did you get
What
one?
is it? That made Debbie hasn't bought it yet, but I'll get it soon.
Yeah, I haven't bought one.
It took 5 weeks. Literally exactly 5 weeks.
That's crazy. Does it say your name on it?
It does.
Can I see it?
No. I'm trying to try it on.
You know what the guy at the convenience store said to me? He was like, "Oh, you like these noodles?" And I went, "Yes." As if like I'm not the one buying them.
Oh. No.
Like I already bought them. He's like, "Oh, you like these?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe it's nice to you." Oh, you're trying. Oh, you're putting it on right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, maybe he's like gonna buy a bunch now, assuming I'm gonna go there and buy them for $4.50 or $4.25.
Oh, it says Brad on the back too, guys. Wow. That is so cute.
You didn't check the website.
It's gonna be really big.
I'm
It's gonna be super
I'm
tiny.
embarrassed over grad stuff because I look like I'm in 10th grade.
They're gonna be like, "Whose baby? Who did you shoplift that off your babysitter?" Hold on, I'll come and see you in 2 seconds. He was in here.
Second. Oh, naked.
What? We're just saying
Okay,
naked?
get up.
Jeez, Manette and Bria, get a room. Stop being naked, Bria.
Okay. Yeah, that fits big.
Okay.
That's how I wanted it. Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad at all. The size I meant. Wait,
Okay,
why
that's
is your
huge.
name so tiny?
It's okay. That's huge. It's okay. It'll shrink once I wash it.
I don't think it's huge.
I think it is huge.
No, it's not.
I feel like it's like sticking out here.
Dad, it doesn't. It's a good size, right? It really fits perfectly.
I feel like it's bigger than the one I was just wearing though.
It's puffier, but that's because it's new.
Puffier! That's great. That's awesome. So I look like an Oompa Loompa right now. That's
You don't. Like the length is the same.
Is it?
Yes.
No, it's definitely longer.
Yeah.
Now everybody's gonna want Brad's baby.
Turn around.
Do I take it off and wash it? Or should I just wear it right now?
It's your choice. It's in the
It is. Yeah. I'll just wear it right now. But is it gonna fall? No, it'll be fine. It's gonna be black. Yeah, let's just wear it right now. Thanks, because it smells like new, but it's fine. I want to wear it. It smells like new stuff.
You have stuff to.
Yeah, I have to see. Yay!
You have a lot.
Yay! Now I'm happy. I was.
Look inside.
It feels like a new sweater.
No, it's not like the other hoodies.
No, I wanted to. I'm so happy.
Bria, how big is it?
It's.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay.
What size is that?
A really big one.
Large
If
or
you
extra
could
large?
tell. Probably bigger than that.
No. Probably put an extra large.
Small one. This is expensive too. It's fine.
That's what I'm.
It changed a little. It's got to set. It has to set. Because that smells really alcohol. Aw. Where is it? All the way down.
You want me to take a
Does it stop here?
Yeah.
Yay!
What are we getting?
Oh, I'm just happy now.
Just now.
Yeah. Oh, good guys. That just made my month. Actually, totally my month. That just made my day. There we go. I love new hoodies, and I just been waiting for this one for 5 weeks. You don't understand how impatient I was getting.
You never once talked about it though.
Because it was eating my brain out.
I wasn't gonna disappear until like after I came out.
So happy now. Ugh. Yay, y'all. Yay. I'm sweating.
Everybody congratulate me.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Bria.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Bria.
Thank you. I'm just so happy right now.
No problem.
Ew.
Does he send
Poor-
it like
Yes,
this?
like
Okay.
literally like spread open on the couch.
Like
Why
why
does
does
like do we be playing video
remember
games?
the one from yesterday with the
Louis.
game channel? Oh my god!
With the what?
That was so bad. It was
I
like
know.
up here. Anytime I see them, like, why is he sending them like that?
I know.
Or like
You
the
really wanna see a
0.5
crotch.
from the back.
0.5 from the
Start
back.
sending them too.
No, he's like leaning back and he has like
Yes.
0.5 and he's like
Yes.
out.
And he's just like spread wide open.
Can I see?
I don't have
We
to
can
save
save
it.
them. No, it's actually really
Why
bad.
would we save
It's
them?
really bad.
Really wanted to put your crotch.
But it's like zoomed in.
I know. It's just the crotch. And then you can see like the TV in the
What
background.
happened during that fight?
So I got to see Abdullah's boo thing.
Yeah.
She was very pretty. He could only go there for 2 hours though, because your dad was coming home.
No, but what if he came home early? Like he got off work early.
Exactly.
Where would he go?
They were both standing on the street too. Because I was like going to pick them up and they were standing on the street.
Where would they go? What if a neighbor ratted her out?
Right? And Abdullah had
We're
to drop
never
him
gonna
off at
send him
Diamond
again.
Trail.
What?
Abdullah had to drop him off at Diamond Trail because he didn't want his dancing that someone else was driving him home when he said he was at basketball practice.
Oh my god, this man's living a tough life.
I'm guessing both their parents don't like them dating, so.
Why?
I mean, we know Abdullah said he can't, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
And I said, so you have a secret girlfriend? He's like, it's not secret, I'm just keeping it to myself. He's like, that doesn't mean I'm cheating on her though. And I was like, I didn't assume that, but okay.
Probably just keep it on low because what if someone knows and they actually see something like his parents or something like that? So he's just keeping it on the low because he doesn't want.
And I was like, man, any of your friends drive? He's like, they're fake. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like,
They're probably
I was like, don't they drive? He's like, some of them do, but.
interesting. She was just standing outside the house.
No, I had to drop him off my street corner.
Hi.
I don't know, I wasn't allowed to see the house or something.
So why did you see her?
She was standing out on the street corner with him.
That's where they spent the entire 2 hours?
No, they went to her house. I just didn't see her house.
I'm talking about
So they meet like once
They live
bi-weekly.
they live in like a cul-de-sac of like rich people's house.
A circle road.
Yeah, a bunch of circle roads, like all connected. And this rich people house in the middle of the falls, just like in like literally out of nowhere in the middle of the falls, and then down the street's a strip club.
How much did you pay?
He asked me and I said, I don't know. So nothing right now.
Just say $10.
I'm probably gonna say $10. It's not that big a deal, and only like quarter of a quarter.
Is this like a thing you're gonna do every week? No. You could get money out of it, just
I
saying.
really could.
Like,
But it's like and then I'm stuck there for 2 hours in falls.
Get another job for the hour. Yeah.
Electric car.
Why aren't you doing
Yeah, you have to be busy.
It'll be 18.
next month, guys? 2 months. 3 months actually.
For you, it's like 2 months.
Yeah.
A little less than a year.
Over a year.
But also puts miles on the car.
That's true. And I don't think it's enough money to do.
Oh, is it born?
You how many old?
It's been born for like 4 months.
Really?
And then our baby daddy left her.
Boy or girl?
And his name's Miles. That's what I said when I was baby. But she said it was Miles in her car.
Where does she live?
With her mom. I don't think with her mom.
Who's the dad?
JJ Nino.
Where is he?
He left her.
He's not with.
He's like 21.
Doesn't their conscience like eat them up that they have a kid? Don't they just like
Well, Leslie's doing pretty fine. This kid's like almost 3.
Do you think he's like ignores the fact that he just like full on fucking shot?
Have you got a grandchild? It can go away.
I love her.
So like anyone who's gotten pregnant just has always kept the kid.
Yeah, why don't they just
Always. Like it's not that common.
Bria's mom has gotten touched.
She's fine.
Is she fine?
Like physically, I guess
I literally
How
look
did
Debbie.
they
I'd be
do
like, we
that?
gotta go get an
Like, how
abortion.
did they pop a baby out of them?
Right? Debbie, I like full seriously. If I ever showed up pregnant, she'd be like,
If you ever showed up.
If I was like, I'm pregnant. No, if I found out I was pregnant, I wouldn't even like say anything to her, and she'd be like, we gotta go get an abortion. She'd be like, all right. She'd be like,
She probably had 1 month.
We're already.
It should have been in like 2009 or something like that.
When did you get that?
2006.
The last time said like 17. Yeah. He was like, Manat!
Yeah, Debbie should have done. She should have done an abortion in 2009.
I'm always after work.
you can see all over your shirt and face.
He was like, oh, you've never been. I was like,
See me. Thank you.
Wow, I think I've been over 200 times. So.
No.
And he was talking about touching.
Oh.
Oh my god, you know the game Scribble thing where you draw and then a bunch of people guess each other? Yeah. So we were playing that, and I was playing that for like an hour in the last night because we were just in the Guitar Club and I was just sitting there. And then it was connected to the screen thing, right? And then someone just wrote Tron 2024 and I left it on, right? Then I come back and it says Harris and then the N-word. Again and again. And I was like, and the principal was in the hall and I was like, what do I do? And I just like started like jumping up and down and closing and pulling wires to get rid of it. And Mr. Lasker was just laughing. It worked, yeah. I kind of shut down the whole tablet. Because if you walked in and that was there, you really just trying to do it wrong. I was trying to figure, okay, I was panicking. I was trying to write over it again. And then yeah. It's very random, wow. No, I saw Mr. Graham downstairs.
I didn't see Mr. McDonald. Oh, but Margo's in your class.
Maybe it was fine.
He wants to make one shirt.
I don't think he would lie.
Why would he lie about that?
I don't think he left.
Sometimes teachers don't just go with the guy actually in class.
Columns were
Other quiz
expensive.
field trip.
What? Columns were
It was okay. It was not bad.
Usually where?
Some questions I didn't know, but it was okay.
I'm talking.
Brody, you were in class yesterday. Did Mr. Langell say he wasn't coming to class Monday?
I wasn't paying attention.
And Margo really paying attention.
He was not even there, I don't think.
So you don't think?
Was Langell there yesterday?
Yes.
I was just saying maybe Margo went yesterday.
When we graduate, we should all go somewhere. We should go to Toronto. We can take you to Toronto. Let's go to Toronto. Guys, this is the plan.
How are we
Charlie
going to
drive us to Toronto. We'll all pitch in for gas money.
I can drive us to Burlington first day and take train.
Why can't we go to Toronto?
That's a far drive and my car sucks.
We'll be fine.
Also, it's faster just go on the train.
It's so much faster to park in Burlington than on the train. Because you can park your car there overnight.
And you know it. None of you guys eat.
We'll get
You don't want to eat it with you? I'll eat the sauce.
I just fries.
What are you guys eating?
Fries and eat the sauce.
I want to drink.
You just go around, but like, we've got to be safe. We got to be out of there by a certain time. We could go to my house.
I'm looking these in the falls.
I was going to my house, but it's like, you know, that'd be weird.
Would be weird.
Like, are we just like going?
Well, at that time, me and Bria can book a hotel.
No, but all I hear is money. So
Yeah, you're right. Well, we'll see what our financial situations are.
Broke. Students.
Me and Manat will be broke uni students. Bria will be a broke college student. And Brody will just be broke.
you're not going to college, Brody? Yeah. What if you apply just for your safe side?
I'm gonna check that.
Are you really gonna go back to school after that?
Yes.
Wait, you did 12B?
My mom told me no gap years. She's like, people that take gap years don't need to go back to school.
I'll go back.
Are you working?
Yeah.
Where?
My places. I get my place.
You should start right now.
I'll
I've applied to 20 places.
Yeah, my mom still hasn't even met.
40 actually.
Oh.
Because I did 20
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, you need to know something. And even at that point, who knows?
Hey guys, I'm sweating. I'm barely wearing clothes and I'm sweating.
That feeling when the knee surgery's gone?
You just gotta. They literally have that in their profile picture.
I don't even
You
know
look at the blue part
what it
really
means.
closely.
It's hard to do. I keep getting them on my For You page now. I saw Cool Math Games. He did it to me the other day.
It's just the Grinch.
It's a picture of the Grinch going like this. That
Oh,
feeling when the knee surgery's
For you,
gone.
for you. Oh. What do you
I just
say?
know that sound is the background for it.
I got you, Bobby. I got you.
Wait, just like, sounds from a saxophone.
What type of hair?
Cotton.
It's under
What are we talking
percussion.
about? No, I'm just thinking, like, when all of us are gonna have jobs,
It's a
like, what type of like
glockenspiel,
people
bro.
are we gonna be in the profession? Like, what kind of teacher are you gonna be? Is
God.
like a doctor? Like, what are you gonna be?
Shut up.
Real life.
Right? Like, it's just gonna be in there, like, right?
I'm gonna be a high school teacher.
I know, but I mean, like, what type? You know?
A science, a chemistry.
No, like,
Oh.
like you were saying the thing with Abdul. No, were you saying that? Or were you just gonna say like some?
Oh yeah, I was like, could you imagine you walk in, like you go to the emergency room, you tell your doctor what's wrong, you just like type shit.
Yeah. And then like,
You're like,
you know,
I think I broke my leg.
like, how are you gonna
That
teach
shit.
lessons?
I'll probably be a mix of. Orlando even said this himself. He said he thinks I'm gonna be a mix between a laugh check and brain bridge.
Oh.
Because I'm not gonna be laid back like a laugh check, but I'm gonna be like laid back at the same time. But if kids are like not paying attention, being little dicks, I'll be like, hey, shut the fuck up. Well, not actually. I'll be like, I'll yell. I don't give a fuck. Big Josh was being a little dickhead, so I just went, do your work. And
And you got enough, and he's getting enough fight, apparently.
like literally, he was talking to Kenny, and he was like,
Until
dicking around. He's like, hey, can you do your thing?
Dude, ultrasounds are so scary. I was watching a nuclear
Isn't that
translucency test. No, but like when there's something wrong with the baby and they have to like not say anything, but they gotta like break the news. Like that's so sad. When you gotta check like the fluid under the neck and then you can have like Noonan syndrome. That I don't like.
I've
That's
gotten my
like
least favorite
18 months.
ultrasounds before in my life. They're just like, you just gotta press real hard in the stomach.
I know, and it looks like they're pressing into your skin, but it's not, right?
Yeah,
it's
it hurts real bad sometimes. But it's really cold. And then you have to wipe it off your stomach and it
You guys are telling me like I'm going for an ultrasound.
No, no, but you're giving them, right?
Maybe.
That happens. I
Guys,
literally cried.
we're gonna leave. Oh, you're not bringing your dog or anything?
No, no,
And there's
just
this
run.
woman.
Okay, well, I'm
and she
going to
like
the
best
bathroom
friend
after, so I'm
baby
just
had
gonna
Noonan
take
syndrome.
some.
Well, not
I'll come back.
Okay, guys, we're going to camp
tested
quickly.
positive.
I'll see you guys like for a drink.
I mean, but the baby was in the perfect position for translucency. Do you think you get sensitive if there was something wrong with the baby?
No.
Well, it's not always babies that you get ultrasound. There's your own thing. What is this from? What the heck is this?
Who else is it?
It's me! I've been waiting for this forever! Oh my god! Take that, Abdul.
Ah.
Wait, but you got nothing marked wrong on this.
Bria, how's your searching been going?
Oh, my searching didn't search anything because I saw him once. And nothing.
Oh, who is it?
Nothing. Bria, keep your mouth shut.
Hung up this open.
Ew. Close it.
They just told me to keep it shut, so it's open.
Is Charlie's here? He should be mad if I saw her.
What do you mean she got?
Hey, this is my sweatshirt.
Wow. What is it? Oh, the bubbles?
Yeah, I stayed up for minutes doing this. Guess what molecule it is?
I literally can't.
It's okay, I wouldn't know any of these either. If you do this.
Wait, what is really that? The zero.
Your grade just isn't on here, so I guess so. Movie?
Oh, I see. I'm a freaking loser. Huh.
Got an 88. That's the lowest one yet.
Yeah, loser.
Wait, Charlie's isn't here.
Oh, and Isaiah's work is also horrible. Wow, look at that.
He did it the day of, and he got an extension. Sucker? Does that say sucker?
It looks like it does.
Wait, but he's not the baby.
Exactly, that's the loser.
Oh.
See that?
and she please come to the office? Hello? There you are. Hi. I got $1.50 in change.
Yeah.
I'll repay you. I just don't have any on my person. I cannot believe I just said that. Why are you in here? Cora told me. By the way, is Cora okay?
I don't know. She doesn't like me, so I wouldn't know. But I don't think she's okay. She looks down.
50? 25?
Oh, did I fucking roll it over it?
Can you take nickels and oh?
I don't know if I can. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, I don't have any more quarters
It's okay. I know whom else I can scan her off of. Thank you so much.
Ask Mr. E for 25 cents.
It's okay.
say it's neat? Just a plain one?
Not a plain one, but I do think something that's like basic in a sense of like you won't remember it for the rest of your life, but like stand out when you see it in public, you're like, that's a cool bag.
Something like this?
That's cutesy, I guess. I just don't know how much I love the bag in general.
Like this? Well, that's, no, that's not $43.
Jeez.
Thanks. Like, what do you mean it's not me?
I don't know, I feel like
When I wear my baggier pants, it's me.
yeah, when you wear your baggier pants.
I think I might do this one.
Well, you know it's Black Friday weekend sale.
Do you think this would hold my
60%
computer
off
in
all
it?
sweaters, jackets, and winter
Do you think it'll
accessories.
hold my computer in it?
Maybe. I'm sure Tony's
Hot girl niche crossbody shoulder bag.
slay.
Active card. Let's look at some pins. Okay, if you want to write down some equations.
Okay, we'll start off really basic because obviously to review.
You can zoom in. Must be.
Just to review what we
That's, so I would do divide 6. So if I'm not going crazy, it's you divide 24 by 6. Which
6,
then would
12,
be
18.
4. So 4. And then don't you divide 6 by 4?
No. X is 4. Because
Oh,
when you divide
so then-
24 by 6,
yeah.
you get the multiplier.
So then X is 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get that.
Y2. What is that? 18?
2y.
2y.
Divided by 8.
Equals 2. So don't I divide 2 by 8? Which could then give me 2.
No. Divide. If you want to divide, then you divide. No, 8 by 2.
Oh, 8 by 2. Which would give me 2. No, 4. So y would equal 4.
I do think so. Okay. Oh wait, no, the answer is really obvious. I'm just really slow.
Is it not just 2?
No. Okay, so 2y divided by 8 equals 2. So when you divide something by, okay, so when you multiply something by 2, it's going to be 8. I think that's how fact families work.
If you what?
Hold on. Yeah, so if you multiply 2y
by
8 by 2, then you'll get 2y. I believe
should be
that's
4.
how it works. No, because you're multiplying 2y by 2
Oh.
to get 8
So
times 2.
8 times 2.
Will equal 2y times 2, I believe.
8 times 2 is 16. Should be 16.
Guys, let's move on to an easier question, because I do get the math behind this, because it's like, the answer is 8. Because it's like 2 times 8 divided by 8 is 2. It's a really obvious answer, but I don't know how to do the math to get to it. Start signing his name cutely. Okay. Okay. The answer is on there, kind of, but.
That long. So 3x plus 2
Plus 6, because you're multiplying both things inside brackets.
Oh, so x times 2.
I would just rewrite it when you figure that out.
Oh, so it would be 3x plus 6.
No brackets.
Oh, yeah.
It's just 3x plus 6.
Minus 2, so 2
Minus
2x. So 4x plus 5.
Okay. Do you know how to move things to the other side of the equation?
What do you mean?
Like, do you know how, like, if I want to get rid of that 6, I'd just, like, go 3x minus 2 minus 2x equals 4x plus 5 minus 6.
Yeah. I know.
Okay. So, isolate the x's on the one side.
So then what I do? 3x minus 4x.
I'd just say do one variable at a time, so you don't confuse yourself. So I'd say move the 2 over first.
Minus 2x.
Yeah. And then you can move 4x over.
He's not even in here.
And then solve how many x's on one side and then x's on the other side.
Hey guys, how's Caitlin doing?
I have no clue.
You don't really care, do you?
No, not really. I ignored all her calls yesterday.
So this will be 3.
What? Well, 5 minus 6 negative 1 plus
Oh, yeah.
2 would be 1. Yeah.
Keeps Couture.
3x minus 2x.
X
1x. Then
minus
minus
4x
would be
negative 3x. Instead of negative 3x equals 1 plus 1x.
Don't I divide 1 by 3?
Yeah, you divide it. You divide that by x. Or you divide that by negative 3.
Yeah. 1 divided b.
Calculator, or you can keep it in fraction form.
Negative 1/3.
Stop, no, I'm just. You're doing really good.
So do you think I'll just do another quiz like that one?
Kind of.
Or do you need another?
Could do one more.
I don't want to do one.
What do you mean?
Give me one.
Well, no, because she's confirming No, you're not doing my math.
You guys can both
This
do the
is-
same
Yeah.
question.
No, because I'm trying to study for my retake tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got a retake.
So I can't do this?
You can, but you also have work you should be working on.
No, I can't use it if you only apply to colleges. Because it's saying the college I want to apply to doesn't exist, and I don't know what to say why it's saying that.
Tanner, do you want to hold on? Guys, can I please Google stuff?
Kiki, what one do I go for? This one? Or this one?
Oh, the other one. Well, okay, I like that personally because I'm like, I don't know, I like that style. I feel like what you usually wear more so goes with
That's
that.
what I said.
Yeah.
But when I wear my baggier stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true, but
Like I wear baggier stuff more
a lot
than.
of times you wear stuff that would match that more is all I'm saying.
Like what do you mean?
Like I don't know.
So go with one of these then?
Yeah, and you can add pins and stuff on it and be really gay that way. You can have a pin that says twist my nipples.
No. What color do I go
Was
for?
this so Kiki
Do I
doesn't
do
on the pin as
blue?
well?
Kayak.
Kayak color. As soon as I'm 18, my friend Draven is gonna pay for my nipples to get pierced.
What the fuck?
I'm so pumped, guys. You know, people get vagina piercings. I think that's wild.
Right.
Or like guys can get piercings like through like the tip into the hole, the pee hole. Yeah.
Which part would anyone want this?
Apparently, because it's too much bitch.
Would you like that piercing?
No.
Okay, Tanner, are we doing linear systems or bag searches?
Bag searches.
Okay, X.
You
Minus.
do it.
Okay. X minus 7y
What?
equals -11 and.
Can you fix that 7?
Yeah.
Because that really talks to me.
And 5x plus 2y equals -2. Right? Yes, I'm amazing.
So what's my goal here? To find X
To
and Y
solve
values?
X and Y, yeah. You can get rid of that and here.
Um.
Just give me the questions Khan Academy's given me, so.
Can you make calculator, please?
Me too.
Isabel's legislate.
Okay.
I just shoved a french fry in my mouth and I said I'm really good at deep throating and you're like, not that reaction you aren't. I was like, no.
Can I just not do something like this?
Well, Tanner. No. So what you want to do is you want to isolate X or Y singularly, and then you want to substitute X or Y in the other
So
equation.
should I just do 5x and.
I would say isolate X in that equation. That's not isolating X. Because you shouldn't be subtracting when you're isolating X.
Well, no, I'm just rephrasing that equation first.
Okay.
Would you not do that?
I don't know how else you can rephrase that.
So x plus, oh yeah. 7.
Why are we adding?
You told me I should be subtracting the first time.
No, I said you shouldn't be subtracting because you're isolating X. I mean, if it helps to rewrite, we can go for it. But.
Mom in the chat.
I mean, you can do it that way, yeah.
Okay.
Can I do it like this? Will this work out?
Where'd you get 5x from? That's not the right equation. I would say isolate X so that X is on one side of the equal sign and everything else is on the other side.
So x equals -7. No, 7y.
Bitch!
So then do.
You can just do 5 and then in brackets 7y minus 11.
11.
And then plus 2y equals negative 18. And then multiply the things inside the bracket by 5. I don't know 5 times 7 either.
35. Y. Negative 11 times 5.
It's just negative 55, I think. Or is it positive 55?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Why don't you go with Tanner and isolate x first, and then substitute it on the other side? Love how you're consuming my pencil.
It's really tasty, actually.
I stole it from my friend, so.
Oh. Oh no.
It's okay. I did give it back to her yesterday, and she hasn't noticed, so I think she'll be fine. And if she asks for it back, I'll say Kiki ate it, and then I don't think she'll want it because I did my pencil.
So isolate actually wants to do.
Yeah.
X equals 7y. Subtract 11.
And then keep y's on the one side.
Then add 11.
So then. 2.
Is that a 1 or plus sign? Okay.
Then plus 11 on this side.
Why did you just drop y?
Hmm?
Why did you just drop y?
Oh shit.
These cancel out. And so far I have 11 plus x. You're trying to figure out what I'm doing, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
So this would be.
Oh, I see what you did. You swapped them on the sides, right? First of all, 7y should be positive because you moved it to the other side of the equal sign.
Then subtract 7.
So that
subtract
instantly
11 on
makes
this
y
side.
1.
And then you can use that to solve the first
7
equation
cancels
for
positive
what
7.
x is.
And then negative 7.
And then.
Plus 11 plus x equals y. What do you want?
I don't know. I think Tanner's doing it right, so if you get the same answer as him, you're buying stuff, I guess. It's just
So.
x equals 7.
Equals 4.
What?
It's just
Oh,
like, I would
yeah.
actually do it with it before x is isolated, so it's just the like.
What the fuck am I doing?
So it's x minus 7 equals negative 11.
I got 11.
And then should I swap them?
What's going on there?
I don't know.
So then I should then go. Don't I divide negative 7 by 11?
Would you? No, I don't think so. You know, I would actually just do it that I would actually just do like
What?
7 minus 11, and then that will equal x, or it should.
Okay. 7 minus negative 11.
Yep. No, minus 11 because you're just.
Oh. Can you check if that's correct?
You can check it. Use
I
the
totally
equations.
got that. You saw my negative 4 I had there.
You did have a negative 4. I just had no clue where you got it from.
Me neither. When Mr. Lai was on here, should I go buy Mr. Laster to help me?
They're watching while we were here.
So then I
They probably should.
can I caress you?
What the fuck?
Good job on that. Okay, keep up the good work. Don't kill yourself yet.
Negative 4.
Yeah.
Let me watch your graduation before you do.
if we're wrong, I have no clue where we messed up. Can I just see the solution, please? Show step 2, show step 3, show step 4. Oh my god, we got it. It's so amazing.
Want to give me another one, but I solved by myself this time?
Oh, here. I'm actually going to go peek at the test and see what it's asking me. Where'd you put the test?
Don't use the same questions from it.
I know, I'm seeing what type of questions I should be asking.
Are they simple ones? I haven't really.
Well, the next one is, I just need to find an example of it.
Does it say using elimination? Using substitution?
This one I don't think you'll need to use either.
I'm not gonna copy that answer. Solve the linear system. Solve the linear system. Graph both lines with a ruler to find their point. Okay. That overall doesn't seem brutally hard. So should I start by?
I'm gonna check something on this one. So I'm gonna check something quick. Oh, hold on, I'm supposed to give you another equation to go with that.
Yeah, I was about to say as well. It doesn't seem to make the most of sense.
Okay, pick other numbers to go with it that aren't 1 or 10. Let's go 3x minus. So it's y equals, what does it equal? I don't know, what does it equal? I hope my calculator history saves, because if not, we're both screwed. So 3 times, gotta put that in brackets.
Okay. So.
Do we start by just like isolating the two variables?
You can.
Or wait, actually, can I just do add these together so this would just cancel out to make?
You know what you could do actually?
What?
Is that you could stack up the equation and
like
add.
-60, like add that.
So that's like 68 and then like -3y and 10x.
So 8 plus -60 equals -52. So -7 plus 3 equals -4. Then what equation? Top or bottom? What one? Top or bottom?
Bottom equation, just divide everything in it by 3.
What do you do?
You want
Okay,
to
you
around?
stay here. Do I have anything for third?
I'll do
Don't
but
you have
like
NATO?
What do you have for third?
English?
yeah, I don't know.
English, just whatever you want.
I'm such a genius for that.
Just write Exponential.
I'll just take one wild guess.
What do you guys think?
Wondering.
Okay, I'm gonna come back with you guys. You guys have the test. I'm bored. I need to talk to people. I don't like being quiet.
Either I'm in speakers right now, and somehow we both turned up by Mr. Shucks. He like left like 10 minutes before me.
Not 10.
I know.
Bro, I walked down
I
and
wasn't
2 minutes
fucking
later
counting.
you showed up.
I've been hitting like the autism swing in my seat the whole time.
What is autism swing?
Like this.
Next to you find the
Alright,
6 line.
Have to make those stuff.
what the fuck?
Yeah, you're still subtracting.
What are they watching in there? Is Another watching something?
And Mr. Lashes.
Yeah.
Wally.
So now.
Oh my god, they're doing a discussion about it. I'm so mad. I wish I was in that class.
Lessons. What did you teach?
So now you can get X.
It's like environmental science or something. But like if I got to watch fucking Wally and
And if you
analyze
say
it,
Y to the other side of the
They're
other.
talking about fat people, bro.
Who's like about that? What's the lessons? Isn't there like 5 people in the class?
Okay.
I don't really know. I don't know who's in that class. My thoughts on 5 people. I like
No, so
Hell, Sam, how have you also turned up here?
What?
I have a question
Like,
about
why
this.
are you still in my lunch?
Did she
Wait,
care though?
What is that?
Multiplying it by
What is that?
7 would
Is that the
Wait,
one
what
that
did
is
you
cherry?
ask her?
Is that the one that is cherry?
Oh,
Okay, if
hey,
you
can
want
I go
to
down to
just
Mr. Linda's? I have a question about an assignment.
do it
Annie,
by negative
is that
7.
just mangoes or does that have the fucking cherry in it?
It's just not fucking
I was
orange.
suggesting that you do it in the first equation
Is
before
it?
you
Okay,
Is
multiply
there the
something
red
or
thing in there?
multiplying
You're
things
so
by negative
sad.
7.
You see red thing
Yeah,
in
no,
here?
I don't. Okay, but I thought it might be in there.
Literally because X still
Because sometimes it hides
like
behind the
negative
red.
20 plus 2y, you can
I'm
still
serious.
substitute it in the first equation.
Okay, let me get some. Nah, dude.